Hey everyone, this is Lori Lineky doing podcast number 2 from Hurricane Florence. Hope you guys are all safe and doing well. So we're moving on to Chapter 7. In Chapter 7, we're talking about leadership development and how you can develop as a leader. As we talk about cycles of leadership or leadership development, we're going to talk about the crawl, walk, run metaphor. Think of this, that every leader in any organization, no matter where they are now, at some point had very small responsibilities that led to more and more and more. And so think of the leader that you're interviewing for your presentation. Did that leader have very small steps in becoming a leader, or did they just jump right into it? More than likely, they went through this crawl, walk, run metaphor, whether they realized it or not. So in the crawl, walk, run metaphor, it's both philosophical and very practical in a way to develop your leadership. First, you need to gain knowledge, skills, and abilities in a progressive manner. So if you think back to teaching and learning, we talked about acquisition, integration, and application of knowledge. So first you need to acquire it, you need to be able to integrate it, you need to be able to apply it. So gaining skills in this stepwise manner will be beneficial in your leadership development. Right, so what should you do in step 1 of the crawl metaphor? Well, this is where you are now. You're starting to gain a self-awareness of who you are and who you can be as a leader. So all the readings and all the self-assessments we did earlier in this class help you understand your own self and how you can lead. So this is step 1 of the crawl metaphor. If you're fortunate enough to have someone who is mentoring you through leadership, this is a time when they need to give you very explicit lessons and give you direction and basic knowledge of what is a leader and how to develop it. If you don't have that, my suggestion is to start with activities that are very easy to lead. So the easier it is to lead other people, you will get those basic skills and acquire some knowledge of leadership in a low risk and enjoyable setting. Think of the crawl stage not as much as what you are doing, but what you're learning as you're doing it. So things that you can do in this crawl stage would be as a volunteer. You can volunteer on committees, conduct extracurricular management analysis, assist other people that are already involved in team projects, and make it known to your organization and to your leaders that you're not limited by your job description, that you want to do more. Learning at this point is learn as much as you can about the process, the company, and other people, and this will help you learn. All of this sets a tone for success as an early leader. I think back to some of the things I did as a relatively new graduate that I didn't think was leading. I just wanted to be involved more. One of the first things I did was volunteer to set up in-services for the department. I wasn't responsible for teaching these courses. I didn't have the clinical expertise at that time, but I wanted to make sure that I was involved in helping the department, and so I found those who did have clinical expertise and made sure that in-services every month were set up so that we all progressed. A little bit later, another thing I did was set up a formal teaching program for our rehab techs. This didn't require a lot of skill, but it did require some organizational abilities. So the things that you can do are limitless. There's a lot of early learning tasks that you can do. The early leader should join support and professional organizations such as the APTA or the North Carolina Physical Therapy Association or whatever state you're working in. These organizations expose you to a lot of other health professionals. Also doing things such as the PT pubcasts or the pub nights that many towns do would also be a good idea at this point. It is a dynamic world, and making sure that you stay relevant and dated is very important. So what can you do to prevent derailment of an early leader so that you can continue your ascent into higher leadership. Increasing communication and feedback, and this can be both to those above you and those you're trying to lead. Develop an action plan. Having something more formal in writing does help you stay focused. Provide opportunities for coaching so that other people can coach you and help you develop as a leader, and work to find new opportunities and challenges. Always challenge yourself and gain more and more leadership experience as you can. All right, the next phase is the walk phase. So this is when you can start to manage teams. Learn more difficult and more complex information about leadership in this phase, and you begin to understand the complexities of managing teams. And so think of a team as any kind of group of individuals brought together to accomplish specific missions. It can be an interdisciplinary team, which in healthcare it often will be. All right. Working through the group process can be difficult. It is this time when you start to learn about the stages of group developments. Groups of individuals don't always become a cohesive and productive group without training and without time. We're going to go through different stages of the group dynamic process, and I want you to think back as we talk about these stages to different groups that you've worked with during PT school, or even before or outside of PT school. All right, there's several steps in the group dynamic process, and we're going to talk about each one of these steps. So the first is the informing stage. This is the part where you have the official notification of membership, letting people know, hey, you're going to be part of this group, and this is what we're going to do. So as a leader in the walk phase of this, you can help by being specific in the details, letting the group members know how long and when you're going to meet. The expected time frame. Is this a group project that will last 3 weeks or 3 years? Also, deciding who's in the group is very important, and taking into account previous relationships and performance of group members is necessary. The next phase is the forming stage. This is kind of the discovery stage. You figure out who dominates conversations, who works well together, who doesn't work well together. Also, you want to see where there's mutual support and cooperation. Usually, if members don't know each other well, this is a fairly cordial time. But if people are already familiar with each other, it may not be as cordial. And so the tips for leadership in this phase is to set specific goals and establish timelines, making sure everyone understands what's expected of the group. The next phase is the storming phase, and this is when group members are comfortable with each other and they no longer feel obligated to be cordial. They may start to compete for leadership. They may show animosity to someone who doesn't support their ideas. At this point, if you're the leader, you need to encourage professional discourse, conversations, and when people don't get along, that is often where you grow. Not everybody needs to agree with each other, and everyone should feel comfortable putting their ideas out. But you need to be the one that leads and makes sure that all conversations are professional. Try not to intervene too early. Allow this professional discourse to occur. Allow for creative ideas and don't micromanage. The next stage is the norming stage. This is when group members start to relinquish their personal agendas and move towards the goals of the group. At this point, the team members have gone through the informing, forming, and storming phase. They have a whole new perspective of the problem, and it may be a deeper view of the problem than they originally had. So at this point, you need to determine what group members are deterring the situation and what group members are making it stronger. Sometimes it's better to have a smaller group that is working together than to have a larger group where there's one person that is causing a lot of discourse. And the next phase is the performing phase. This is when new ideas are developed. In a good group, realize that the group working together can outperform any one of the individuals. Tips for leadership here is to recognize the contributions of the group, understand the role that each team member plays and has played in getting to that point, and step back and let those who are doing a great job do their job. And the final stage is adjourning. This is when the work is completed and the group members are ready to move on to the next challenge. Your job is not over at this point. At this point, you should document the process and making sure that whatever was developed within that group is disseminated to others. Those who have led within this group, it may be time to start to mentor their leadership in future groups. Good to great groups and teams. So there's definitely skills for healthcare leaders to develop as they unite groups. There are some characteristics of great groups, and that is that they are intrinsically motivated. They have a lot of joy in finding to solving problems. They often rely on, they often focus on more fascinating projects and do want to allow for change. But as a leader, every group has to have that strong visionary leader who's able to hire people that have more talent than him or herself. One of the biggest problems I've seen in people who are leading others is that the leader wants to think of him or herself as the expert, even though they've hired or gathered those who are experts. So make sure that you realize that other people do have incredible gifts, and make sure you use them to your benefit. Also, as a leader, you need to make sure that you have a vision and a plan for your group. And you need to be the expert motivator. You do not need to be the expert. Make sure that your group knows that their work is important and that they are part of the problem-solving process. There's no need to gather a group and you'd be the one who controls all the ideas. Gathering a group should be that all of you together come up with better ideas than any one person could have come up with on their own. All right, what can kill a group? So constraints of trivial structure or tasks. Making sure that what the group is working for is relative and important towards the goal. Error-free environments. And what I mean by that is that if one person makes a mistake and that is looked at as a horrible thing, you're creating an environment where no one wants to try or think outside the box. So making sure that allowing for errors is okay. And having a military model of leadership, so being super authoritative or directive is not what you want out of a group. So how can you enhance groups? Realizing that giving people freedom and autonomy is needed. Failure is a learning event, and errors are part of the natural process of learning. I've talked about this a lot. I talked about it in Teaching and Learning, that once you make a mistake, you often don't make that same mistake again. So allowing for mistakes sometimes is needed. Allow for risk-taking. Encourage others to be able to come up with new ideas. Have the if you can dream it, you can do it mentality. And some great take-home lessons. Greatness starts with great people. So make sure that you recruit good people for your group that can be problem solvers. Again, in the healthcare world, they don't always have to be within your field. A computer programmer may come up with phenomenal ideas related to the process, and it may not be somebody only in physical therapy. Great groups and great leaders can create each other. So collaboration is critical, and making sure that you work within these groups to develop leadership and develop the group as needed. Every group has a strong leader, so make sure that you are the one that is leading the group, that you have an original yet attainable vision. So understanding where you need to be. We talked about setting goals. A good leader eliminates distractions and eliminates trivial matters to allow the group to progress. If you think back to leadership theories, this is very similar to the goal path model of leadership. You eliminate distractions and set others up for success. Leaders of great groups love talent and they know where to find it. So making sure that you're finding the talented people that can be in your group will make a great group. And again, great groups are full of talented people who can work together. So having phenomenally talented people who don't like to work together will create problems. So make sure that you're getting people in a group who can get along with each other. All right, more take-home lessons for great groups. People in great groups think that what they're doing is very important. They're filled with believers. They don't like to doubt. They have a collective purpose, and they're trying to reach that vision. They see themselves as winning. They may see themselves as underdogs. They're optimistic. They're not always realistic. They think that they can do more than what is expected of them. And in great groups, the right person has the right job. And some final lessons about great groups. The leaders give them what they need and free them from the rest. So again, removing the trivial tasks and allowing them to do their job. They share information effectively. So communication is the key. Making sure that everyone has full access to the information creates a better group. They produce something at the end. So a great group has made progress and made it to that adjourning phase. And great work is its own reward. So making sure that we talked about different types of motivation and rewards. And for some people, putting out a great product is the reward for their job. Right, what size is a perfect group? Well, there's no exact size, but as the group increases beyond 8 members, there typically is more difficulty getting everyone to work together and to run an effective meeting. So consider having smaller groups below 8 individuals as a leader in this phase. Now, sometimes you want your group to completely get along all the time, but highly cohesive groups foster something called groupthink. And groupthink is the practice of thinking or making decisions as a group in a way that discourages creativity and individual responsibility. So you don't want a group that goes along with everything one individual says. It's okay to have that person that wants to be the devil's advocate or bring up other ideas. That can create such a deeper rooted group that has deep discussions, and not everyone goes along with the first idea that comes out. So an overview of your skills in this walk phase. You need to learn to manage and lead a team. You can start to gain experience with larger budgets. You may understand multidisciplinary task organization, so it's a good time to start working with those outside the physical therapy field. Begin strategic planning, and that can be part of a group or that can be individual. Become involved in the local community. Make sure that you continue to stay relevant and up to date on what's going on. It's okay to seek additional opportunities in the workplace, volunteer in the community, and join professional organizations. There are a lot of ways to lead within the APTA and within the North Carolina Physical Therapy Association. Alright, so you've made it through the walk phase, and now you start into the run phase. This is when you start to lead organizations. You have progressed through your crawl and walk, and it's time for you to take on more responsibility. At this point, you may be accountable and responsible for a lot within healthcare and within your leadership position. You may have the knowledge and gain skills and have practice, but now it's time for you to become this leader. This is often the most difficult cycle in leadership because you hold the major responsibility of getting things done. All right, thank you.